This is BKL Nightly. I'm Thad Brown with Caleb Carr, Rachel Liebert. Full house here on a Monday. What we're going to do today is talk about the year two jump. A lot of times you hear rookies, first year didn't go so well. People say, well, get them into an NFL strength and conditioning program, get them some year-round coaching, and things look a whole lot better the next year. And there is enough truthfulness to that to believe it can happen. So we're going to go through each of the Bills' 8 drafted players from last year who are still on the roster. We're going to bucket them into 3 categories. Do the Bills need a year two jump from this player? Do they want a year two jump from this player? Or is this player fighting for a job in year two? And then we'll talk about the chances of those things happening for each of these guys. We will start at the beginning, as we should, with last year's first round pick, Max Hairston. And Caleb, I'll have you go first here. Need a jump, want a jump? He's not fighting for a job. Which one is it for you?
This one was honestly one of the hardest. I started I'm going to call it an exercise. I started this exercise, and when I started with this one, I was like, oh, this is going to be it's going to take a while. But I think the right answer is the Bills need a jump from him. When you look at like what he did statistically, and you kind of do the eye test when you watch film and look at how much of an impact he really made. But I do want to argue the want a jump option because of the fact that he didn't really have that many opportunities. He was injured. He got injured pretty early on in training camp, so we didn't even get the full training camp that a lot of players, especially the rookies, got. Then he was out for the beginning of the season, and when he did come back, he was playing behind a Tre'Davious White that I think was exceeding expectations. So he wasn't really given the opportunities that you maybe thought he was going to get or you thought he maybe should get. And I thought in the opportunities that he was given, he wasn't bad. I still think the right answer is the Bills need a jump from him. But I think this is like right borderlining the want/need line.
I have it as a need a jump more for the fact that, I mean, one, he has to kind of prove. First, he has to prove that what he's capable of, because the injury really did kind of hold him back last year from that. But I have the need just because in the terms of they need a jump from him for that unit to maybe be successful, because who else is there beside Christian Benford that off the top of my head that is maybe we know is going to be successful? I feel like Hairston has to be a part of that group in order for that group to have success that season. So that's why I think they need a jump. I mean, it'll be I think the want a jump too is fair to say because this is your first round pick. So I don't think that, I mean, you want to jump from any guy that you need him to prove why he was your first round pick, but I'm kind of falling more towards the need.
I'm definitely need a jump and need a jump, want a jump. Everybody who is in the need a jump category is also in the want a jump category. It's kind of like every square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square. This is a need a jump. The Bills have clearly, I think so far, shown you that they believe that the guy they spent a first-round pick on last year is the guy they want to be a starter this year because they've not gone out and spent any major free agent resources on it. I'd be stunned if they went corner with a first-round pick 2 years in a row, and since they don't have a second-round pick, a third-rounder is not a likely starter. So I think they're expecting and they need Max Hairston to take that jump. Now, the question is, does he take that jump? And I think there's a good chance of it. Number one, I think Max Hairston has an opportunity to follow the Cole Bishop timeline from last year, which is, it didn't work out year one because of an injury in training camp, but you almost get like a redshirt year and then you come back a little more comfortable. So there's a good opportunity for him to be as successful as Cole Bishop was this year. And look, anytime you got a 4.2, you got a chance to be okay in this year NFL. The one concern I have, though, is I think this new defensive scheme is not going to fit him. I think he was a better player in Sean McDermott's zone scheme. One of the reasons I liked him as a first-round pick for Buffalo. As an attack, man, press type guy, that's not really his game. His game is speed. It's recover and attack. Now, you can do that, and you can build things around him in this defense, but I still feel pretty decent about Hairston's chance to have a big jump in year two.
I do as well. I really like that comparison to Cole Bishop because that's pretty much we're in the exact same spot with Hairston that we were last season with Bishop.
Exactly.
And just to reiterate what you said, or what I said earlier, sorry, even when he did get healthy, like last year when Bishop got healthy, he still had opportunities out there on the field. He was still one of the main guys. I don't think Maxwell Harrison was ever really considered one of the main guys this season because, like I said, Tre'Davious White exceeded expectations. You know, they drafted him in the first round to think, okay, it's going to be between him and Tre'Davious, and hopefully the rookie takes it. But then when he got injured and Trey White all of a sudden started popping off, it was like, all right, we don't really need to force these opportunities to Harrison because Trey White is doing well with them.
And there was no Trey White. Like DeMar Hamlin was not doing Trey White things 2 years ago.
Exactly. No, there was no one there in Cole Bishop's way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think because of the injury, I just think you have to. This is just a need because we don't know what he's fully capable of. So I don't think we could say they want to jump because what is he really jumping off of? Like the baseline of that isn't super strong just because of injury. So I think we're all on the same page with the need there.
Okay, let's move to pick number 2. That would be TJ Sanders. Rachel, you can go first. Bills want to jump, or is he maybe fighting for a job already despite being a second-round pick?
This one was tough for me. I don't know if this team needs a jump from him for the team to be successsuccessful, but I think he needs a jump to maybe he falls in the category.
I see what you're saying there. That makes sense to me.
Fighting to prove his spot. So you kind of land somewhere in the middle, but I mean, he was a guy that was also injured, had trouble finding his role, I guess, with this team. I don't think, like I said, the team needs him to be successful for, the D-line's not riding on what he does, I don't think, but I think he needs to make a jump. So I think I put him in that maybe fighting for a spot, but I still think his spot is more solidified than maybe some of the other guys I'm going to also put in that category. So I don't really know where my final answer is.
You got to pick one. That's the rules of the game.
I mean, I'll say needs a jump, but more from a personal standpoint.
That's fair. I think it's a fair answer.
I'm gonna go need a jump as well, and I'm gonna use a similar argument to what Rachel used for Maxwell Harrison, where I think when you look at this position group, this defensive line, I know that the Bills brought in Bradley Chubb, and they've already got Ed Oliver, Deion Walker's look good, but outside of those three guys, there's not really a ton of names that scream at you, and I think TJ Sanders needs to step up and be a good role player for this D-line, a good guy that you can plug in for a few plays. And I know we'll see what Jim Leonard likes to do. I know McDermott liked to kind of rotate that defensive line, so we'll see if that continues. But I think for TJ Sanders, the Bills need him to improve this year just because of how thin that defensive line is depth-wise.
I think there's maybe a little more depth there than maybe you're giving it credit for. I do think there are more pieces. Obviously, Ed Oliver and Deion Walker kind of locked in, and we're going to talk about Deion Walker in a little bit here. I don't think the Bills are relying on TJ Sanders to be more than a role player. Put it that way.
Maybe not him specifically, but I think they need somebody to step up and be a good depth piece. So just for that reason, TJ Sanders falls in that group of one of you needs to do something. So because of that, I'm giving him.
That's fair. Yeah, but I think with Dwayne Carter and Zion Logue and Fedarian Mathis.
I mean, any one of those guys.
Exactly.
Could, yes.
Right. Yeah. But that's why I won't rely on TJ Sanders. In terms of the chance of him doing it, I'm not optimistic with Sanders. I think he really, more so even than Max Harrison, fit what the Bills were looking for in a 4-3 pass rusher. And now look, if you can get after the quarterback, again, the teams will find ways to get you involved. But I think this is a worse fit for him. Again, more so than Max Harrison. So the chances of him getting there, I'm going to label as simply not optimistic.
So you're putting him in the...
Oh, I didn't say anything. Want a jump for me. You're right. And
Wants
then
a jump. Okay.
In terms of the chances of that happening, not, like I said, not almost in going back to having all those opportunities there, all those different players the Bills could turn to. I think that's fortunate because if they are relying on TJ Sanders to even be a role player in this defense, that's not a place I want to be living, even if it can work out.
Yeah, I think I'm with you with that one, with the a jump maybe. Maybe I'm getting my categories confused. I don't know over here, but I think
I only invented these categories yesterday. So
I'm like want, need. Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. No, I feel like hearing your side of that, I think maybe the want makes more sense of the if you want a depth piece, then he's probably the guy that falls.
I mean, need is an argument because you guys are both right that somebody better be the extra defensive lineman on this team. Probably more than one somebody. I just don't think it has to be TJ Sanders.
I agree.
Considering the guys they have.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Caleb?
Yeah, I think they'd like it to be TJ Sanders because I think he's the youngest out of all of them. So you'd like it to be him. And even though you have a new kind of group running the team, it's still nice to be like, hey, our second round pick is doing good. I'm sure Brandon Bean is probably at the top of that list of people who wants to see TJ Sanders succeed. But I do agree with you that the likelihood of it happening probably isn't too great.
And we talk about wanting a guy to take a jump. If Zion Logue or Fedarian Mathis take a jump, the ceiling is limited there. The ceiling is much higher.
Yes.
You're talking about a second round pick and a guy that you traded up in round 2. This isn't pick 60. This was like pick 41 from last year. So the ceiling on TJ Sanders elevating, I think, is a whole lot higher. Third round pick last year was Landon Jackson. Rachel, you can go first again. Need a jump, want a jump for the Bills, or is he fighting for a job?
I think he's fighting for a job for sure. I don't know. He never really had a job, so I think he kind of has to kind of solidify himself as what that job even is in the first place. I mean, he was injured a little bit, then he kind of just wasn't, part of that group or he wasn't, doing well enough to be a part of that group. We don't really know what he's capable of, and I don't know what the Bills really expect from him at this point. So I think on his standpoint, he definitely needs to prove that he belongs on this team.
I'm with you. I think he's fighting for a job. I think he was an old school of all the guys who I think are going to struggle with a 4-3 to a 3-4 change. Landon Jackson is at the top of my list. He was an old school power 3-4 defensive end. And that is just not someone that generally in this defense gets used a whole lot. Now it still will be because things aren't exclusively 3-4 all the time. But I think that Jackson, especially coming off the injury, scheme not built for him, I think he's in a tough spot next year.
I agree with you guys that I think he's fighting for a job, but I do think that, when, at least from my point of view, when I was thinking about these categories, the fighting for a job category to me felt like, okay, they need to go out there and prove that they can be a really good player. I don't think he needs to prove that he can be really good. Like, he just needs to go, because they've seen nothing from him so far. He played like 3 games, like 30 snaps. Like, he hasn't done anything for the Bills so far. And like you said, his kind of play type doesn't really fit the new defense. So I think he just needs to go show that, maybe from the play style point of view, that he can be elusive, that he can play differently. And then from just the overall standpoint, just needs to show that, like, I belong to be on an NFL field. I think that's all he really needs to do. I don't think he needs to go be a superstar for the Bills. He just needs to show that he has a spot. So yeah, I'm go with fighting for a job as well.
And I think I'm with you too, that it's not, they're not going to ask a lot of him. No. But they do need someone to be a functional player. Yeah.
If not just because they've seen nothing so far.
The one thing I'll say about when we talk about his chances of actually getting there, of making that year 2 jump, is that because of the big knee injury, I think he's going to have a very long runway to make that happen. In other words, he's fighting for a job, but I don't think that fight ends in training camp, week 4. Oh, no. I think that fight ends in 2027 sometime. Yeah. I think he's going to have some time.
I agree with that.
Anything else on the chances of him improving next year, jumping, as it were?
I don't really foresee him. I mean, if he can stay fully healthy, if he does recover from that injury fully, which is probably not going to happen. I mean, maybe, but I don't think he's going to make enough of a jump to kind of solidify who he is on this team.
I think the biggest obstacle will be the difference in play style, the difference of how they want to run the defense and what he brings. But I think if he can find a way to either be really good at just what he does, and kind of like Maxwell Harrison, he doesn't really fit the scheme, but he's so fast that it's like, we're going to find a spot for him. If he can, I don't think that happens, but if he can find a way to prove like, hey, I'm really good at this, so even though I don't fully fit the mold, I can still be of use. But I think that's going to be his biggest obstacle, one that he's going to have a hard time getting over.
In any defense, I thought Landon Jackson was going to be a bit of a project for the NFL. It was going to take some time for him to develop, and then to have the injury to be set even further back, it just has not worked out well for him so far. All right, round 4. That would be Mr. Deion Walker, who was not too shabby as a rookie. So Caleb, need a jump, he ain't fighting for a job. Need a jump, want a jump. Do the Bills see Deion Walker in which of those 2 categories?
I think the Bills want a jump. I think he had a really, really good season. He showed that he has a lot of potential. So obviously the Bills want to see him take as big of a jump as he possibly can, because I think he's got plenty of room to jump. He's one of the only rookies that played the actual full season. The other reason that, because I did kind of think about need a jump, because although he was good for a rookie, he still wasn't like this insane defensive lineman. I'm going to stick with want to jump, though, because I think if Ed Oliver, cross your fingers, knock on wood, if Ed Oliver has a fully healthy season, Deion Walker's not going to be there like not that Walker, I don't think Walker was ever expected to take over the full Ed Oliver workload, but it was kind of spread out between him and some of the other guys. If Ed Oliver's there and he can play next to him, learn from him, and not have all that pressure on him, I think that can be really, really good for him and help him continue to grow this season.
I landed on a jump for basically the exact same reasons. I think out of the rookie class, he was maybe the one who had the best season, other than Jackson Haas would be probably the other argument for that. I mean, we saw what he was capable of, and this was a guy, like, you could tell he was a rookie. There was still, like, fine-tuning that needs to go on, but he was playing, he's holding his own out there. And I think with the Ed Oliver argument, too, I think that's a good point of that he might not have, his role is going to look different this year because Ed Oliver's healthy. But also the need to jump, too, is I think he still needs to be, maybe I'm confused with like the one that I just keep contradicting myself. Then he needs to have the jump because he is a key part of this line now. He has established himself in that regard. So I think the Bills want to jump because the ceiling is just, really high for him. But I do see kind of where you were floating around the need to jump too. But I think he's definitely a want to jump. I think overall he had the best rookie season.
I think the way I think of want to need to jump is that if it want to jump means if he plays the same as he was the year before, the Bills can still be really good and win a championship.
I think he falls in the want.
Yeah, like Max Hairston, I think is need to jump because if he doesn't jump, what are the Bills doing at corner two this second? With Deion Walker, he was good enough last year that guy, again, totally fine. Yeah. He was a playmaker, needs to be better against the run, but you get enough out of him against the pass and with the splash plays that he is effective and helpful for this defensive line. So I'm certainly in the want to jump category. I mean, consistency, I think, is really the priority. You saw everything you want to see. You just didn't see it often enough. If you get that guy 80 to 90% of the time instead of 50 to 60% of the time, well, now you're talking about one of the better defensive linemen in football, especially considering he's built like a 3-story building already. So just give me that little bit more of consistency. How likely, guys, do we see Deion Walker take that jump, Rachel? Because, like you said, he's one of the few guys who's already starting from a high spot. You can't jump very high if you're already standing very high.
I think we'll see, I don't know if we'll see a significant jump, but I think we'll see a jump. And I think Ed Oliver being healthy again could potentially help him take that jump, even if it means less of a role from him. Like I said, I don't think it's still only year 2 for someone who, like you said, he's starting off pretty high. He can't jump too high either. But I do think we'll see somewhat of a jump. I don't know if it'll be like crazy, but I think we'll see something.
I mean, who says he can't jump high? I mean, we've seen it happen before. We've seen guys, we've seen rookies have insane seasons. We've seen guys wait 2 to 3 years and then just become one of the best players at their position. So I don't think there's anything saying just because he already had a really good rookie season, he can't have an even better second year.
There's just, when you're already there,
If you're
already a 7 out of 10, getting to a 9 out of 10, it's just closer.
Once you get better, it gets harder to get better. But I do think that the addition of, again, knock on wood, a fully healthy Ed Oliver next to him is going to be huge for his development and just as he continues to learn and grow. So I do think that while I agree with you guys that we're probably not going to see this ginormous jump, like we're not going to be talking about him as one of the best defensive linemen in the league at the end of next season, I do think we're going to be able to tell that he improved.
I don't know if I buy into the whole Ed Oliver is going to be a big key to this because, I mean, he certainly will help because he's a good player, but Ed Oliver is learning this defense almost at the same pace that Deion Walker is learning it this year. It's new for everybody. It'd be different if Ed Oliver had been here for 3 or 4 years with Jim Leonard, and now it's year 2 with Deion Walker, but it'd be kind of year 1 with a healthy Ed Oliver. That when he knows the defense, that's going to be a big deal. Well, Ed Oliver's not starting from scratch, but closer to scratch than in general. So I don't know how his presence all by itself is going to help that much. I think Walker's got to do it on his own. But that said, because the gap is on consistency more so, I think it's much easier for him to make that up in year number 2. Bill's 5th round pick was Jordan Hancock, who got a decent amount of time last year, but not much of it was good. Rachel, do the Bills need a jump, want a jump, or could he maybe be a guy fighting for a job?
I have him fighting for a job. I said about Deion Walker, you could tell he was a rookie. I think you could really tell Jordan Hancock was a rookie last year. I mean, he has the potential. We've seen flashes of it, but I think now, especially with CJ Gardner-Johnson this season, I think that maybe takes away opportunity from Hancock. But I don't think he's last year made too much of have a role. I mean, I feel like when we saw Jordan Hancock out in the field, it was more so the mistakes Jordan Hancock was making on the field rather than the tackle he just made are made up for. So to me, I think he's fighting for a spot, not because he didn't get the opportunity last year or because they don't believe in him or he has to prove something, but I just think based on who is in that room right now and just experience-wise compared to where he's at, I think he is kind of playing for a spot.
I was fully on playing for his job because of the fact that, especially when you look at the moves that the Bills have made at safety this year, when he was drafted last season, that was obviously before the Cole Bishop improvement. So he was brought onto this team as kind of like okay, we still got to fill this safety spot. Now at this point in the kind of organizations, whatever, like the team doesn't really need to fill a safety spot anymore. So I was fully on that job until I looked. I think I'm going to push him up to need a jump because of his role on the special teams. He has played a good chunk of time with the special teams. Now, I know that this isn't really a league where you're like, oh, that's a good special teams guy. We're going to keep him around because of that.
Sam Franklin's that guy.
He is, but I don't think Hancock's nearly as good as Sam Franklin. But I do think that his role on this team might be a little bit more secured than I thought with the safety position because of the fact that he is a decent special teamer.
You got a good point there with the special teams. I was really flirting between wanna jump and fighting for a job because Rachel, I think you hit it on the head with there were times he looked lost out there in the secondary. I think because he has an ability to play nickel, he came out of college as a nickel and as a safety hybrid. I think he might be a little more secure in his spot, at least for a year. So I'm going to go with want a jump because, like you guys said, the Bills added so much in the secondary. If Jordan Hancock isn't anything better, I don't think no one will notice because it'll be the D. Alford, C.J. Gardner-Johnson show back in that part nickel safety area. So I'm going to stay with want a jump, but like if you don't jump, you're going to be quickly fighting for a job. I'll put it that way. How likely, Rachel, do we think that we see something better out of Jordan Hancock in year number 2?
I think because we saw so many, of him maybe being lost last year.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of
exactly.
And I
notes,
think those
right
are
there.
things that are not. I don't want to say easy improvements, but just those are less of the like technical aspect, or maybe more of the technical aspects, and less of the just like knowing the game aspects. I think he can definitely take a jump if he's just works on those foundations of what it takes to be a good safety. I don't know if I don't think it's going to be a significant jump, but I think he does because he's kind of maybe at the bottom of where this rookie class is for me. I think he has potential to make that jump because there's more room. Like we said, Deion Walker has less.
I'm right there with you. I think when it comes to like the defensive side of the ball, safety, whether it's safety or nickel, I don't know how much worse he can, like, he didn't look great. Now, obviously, I know you can get a lot worse, but that will have you cut before the season even begins. So I think that just with where his baseline is from last year, it's going to be tough if he doesn't improve at least a little bit.
I'm interested to see how good the coaches are. Like Jordan Hancock to me is kind of the coach litmus test, more positional, that part of it. Because the thing we hear about with Jim Leonard a lot is scheme, 3-4, attacking, all this stuff. Well, part of coaching, a big part of it is I have a guy, can I make him play better? And how much Sean McDermott and the other defensive assistants the Bills had in the secondary were pretty good at getting good stuff out of Levi Wallace and Dane Jackson and making Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer elite. Let's see what Jordan Hancock, what they got to get out of this guy in year number 2. Okay, next draft pick, Jackson Hawes. Won't be a lot of discussion here because he was awesome last year. Rachel, Jackson Hawes, need a jump, want to jump for the Bills next year.
I think it's a want to jump. I'm hoping you guys are on the same page with me.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of the same thing as Deion Walker. This is a guy who had a great rookie season. He really did. We know what his role is in this tight end room. And I think, too, I mean, with keeping the same tight end room and retaining the 3 guys that were on the roster consistently last year, I think that really is the want to jump for me. Now, if Dawson Knox would have not been back, I think this would have changed the whole thing. But I think because of who's in that room and what he is known for doing, that he's this blocking tight end who can catch a football sometimes too and scored 3 touchdowns last year. I think he really has. We know what his role is, and I think wanting a jump is the next step for him because I think he really does have potential to be even better than he was last season.
He's a 5th round blocking focused tight end that caught 16 of his 19 targets for 187 yards and 3 touchdowns and is already considered one of the, I won't say best, but better blocking tight ends in the league. I don't know how much more you could need or want from him. I agree with Rachel, though, that Dawson Knox staying is huge for him. I think that keeps him at a want. I mean, I don't know how much you actually care about how much people actually care about PFF grades, but if you do, he was the 4th highest tight end in general, just blocking, receiving, anything overall, 4th highest rated tight end in the league. I mean, he proved every time that he was on the field that he deserved to be on the field. So I think this is just the Bills want something. If he does improve and maybe he gets a little bit better in the receiving game, or he just continues to improve in the blocking game, awesome. If he doesn't, it's still going to be really good for this offense.
Exactly. The guy that played last year is just fine. Wanting a jump is where it is. Now, do the Bills get a jump? I think that might be pretty difficult because Dawson Knox is back. You feel like the passing targets are still going to be reserved at tight end for Kincaid and Knox. And what Jackson Hawes does already is plenty busy for him. He's got enough work as it is. And going back to like what he's done, I've seen more teams now that seem more interested in having a blocking tight end. He's revolutionizing the position. So why do the Bills need more out of that guy for next year? Want would be great though. Okay, running a little low on time, but let's get Dorian Strong in here, the Bills' other 6th round pick. Rachel, want a jump, need a jump from Dorian Strong?
I think I need a jump. I'm just thinking from the standpoint of him being healthy. I just think you need a jump to prove that he's healthy, I think, and still, able to be this rookie that has pretty high potential. I mean, we liked what we saw from him in the time that he was out there, but I'm going to fall for need because I just think I think it's not enough to say want at this point.
I'm going to say he's fighting for a job, and I don't love saying that because, he had a pretty serious injury in week 4 that obviously took away any chance that he had. And he wasn't doing terrible before that. But I think he's fighting for a job just because this is the NFL. And if you're a 6th round pick and you're injured for most of your first season, and then you don't really do much in your second season, you're probably not going to have a spot on that roster for your 3rd. So I do think that he needs to be healthy and prove that he can perform when healthy.
I think it's a fair point. That's a good summation of the reality of the NFL world. I think Dorian Strong is one of the few draft picks that actually fits better in the new defense. I think the pressing style fits his game. So I won't go fighting for a job because I really think he's got a chance to do something, assuming that the neck injury is fully healthy. So I want a jump, especially because the Bills need depth at that corner position. We just talked about how much they're relying on Max Hairston. So getting somebody else to step up, it's almost a need for me, but I landed in want for sure. How likely do we think Dorian Strong makes a jump really quick? Caleb?
I mean, he didn't really show us much last year in his limited time. I think as long as he's healthy, if he can recover from the neck injury, I think it's probably a pretty good chance because he did, especially in training camp. He looked good. So I think as long as he's fully healthy, there's a good chance.
Yeah, I agree. I think health is the biggest thing because, like you said, this defense fits him a little bit better. And I think if he's healthy, then there's definitely potential for a jump.
Okay, last guy is Chase Lunt, the 7th round pick, offensive lineman. Caleb, you can go first this time. Need a jump, want a jump, fighting for a job is Mr. Chase Lunt.
He's fighting for a job. I mean, 8 total snaps across special teams in the offense last season. This, just like I said with Dorian Strong, except instead of he wasn't injured, he just didn't play at all. You're a 6th round pick. If you don't prove that you deserve to be on the field or at least in the rotation, you're probably not going to be able to stick around.
Yeah, he's playing for a spot. I mean, just for the fact that I had to remind myself that Chase Lunt was on this team. So
sorry, Chase Lunt, if you're listening.
Yeah, sorry, Chase Lunt. Same thing. He hasn't proved really what he's capable of. So definitely playing for a job.
Yeah, I don't think I can add anything different than I didn't remember he was on the team because
I remembered. I just
no,
needed
it's
a
not.
Reminder.
It's not an unfair thing to say about Chase Lunt. The one thing I will say is with Ryan Vandermark now off to Minnesota, with the Bills not matching the offer sheet, there's going to be an opportunity for someone to step up and be that swing tackle. So whether it's Tylen Grable or Lunt or even maybe Travis Clayton, somebody has to have that job. Now, that's kind of job that if you get to training camp, you're like, all these guys suck, then you can go find somebody on free agency to fill a reserve role. But I'm sure the Bills would prefer to have Ryan Vandermark was a super fun guy to have around. Young guy, on the ascent, can do different things. What a useful piece that is. And that's why he got paid a little bit from Minnesota. If you can get Lunt or somebody to do that, it becomes just as useful a piece for the Bills going forward this season. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of BKL Nightly. Hope everybody enjoyed us going through all the draft picks from last year. We'll have another show, of course, coming up on Thursday this week. Remember, you can always find this show on YouTube, on Spotify. Rochester First and on WIVB Plus, among other digital stations in your viewing area. For Caleb Carr and Rachel Liebert, I'm Thad Brown. Once again, we will see you again on Thursday. Thanks for watching.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.